One of the most frequently asked questions that I get on this channel is, what were the hotels that you stayed in? Give us reviews of the hotels. And I've done that a little bit here and there, but I usually don't focus too much on the hotels. And so I thought I would kind of go through all the hotels I stayed in my recent holiday trip that was over 3 weeks long. I stayed in 11 different, what you maybe consider classic hotels all around the country, kind of the middle part of the country. And there were some really cool ones, and I mean, all of them were unique. Some were better than others, some were more expensive than others, so I thought this would be a fun way to go through in one video and talk about all these different hotels. And we're going to start in Waukene, Kansas. Starting in Waukene, Kansas at the Prairie Rose Inn. This is a really nice hotel and very historical. I don't know what it was maybe before it was the Prairie Rose Inn, but when you walk in, you got a big open space there. Nice place to have breakfast, but they also have a bar and grill. That's really nice. And it's kind of one of the main hotels that isn't a chain hotel in the town. They do have some chain hotels in Waukene too, but has a story there about, you know, the rose that it's named after. All the rooms are named after old communities in the area. So I was in the Cyrus room. That was a ghost town or something, I believe. And so it was just generally a nice room. You know, just being one person, pretty good amount of space, and a lot of just older classic things in the room to give it that historic feel. And in the room they have articles about the history of the town, or maybe something about Cyrus, like that right there. But down the hallways, they have all kinds of articles and more rooms, as you can see, with the different communities. So that was a neat touch, and made me walk up and down the hallways for probably an hour just reading all the different articles. And so that was really well done. Something that I think hotels could do more of. You know, take a lesson from this place. And I could tell you about all kinds of stories on the wall, but it would make this video too long. But they actually named this Warren Avenue, and so the other side there is another one. But I love this old map as well, before Kansas was truly formed by all the counties. The Chaparral Motor Inn in Burlington. This was built in the 1970s, I believe, and you're greeted by a friendly bear out there. This is the breakfast area. And overall, it's a nice place. It's, I guess you'd say, solid. You can park right there in front of your room. And inside the rooms probably are nicer than what it looks like outside. And you can see it's been updated, painted. And they said they're kind of repainting everything in the area, replacing all the doors. And they're continuing to try to improve this motel. And it's a great value for sure. And I had a pretty good night's stay there. One of the best neon signs you'll find is the Anchor Motel here in Walsenburg, Colorado. And very inexpensive place to stay. And as we go in, you can see it's going to be a very small room. And, you know, I would say on the lower end of the motels and hotels that I'm staying here in terms of the size of it. I did like the fact that they had a nice shower curtain with the hotel on it, but the towels were not great, I remember, and they did not have like a big breakfast selection, but certainly takes you back to what it would have been like traveling down some historic roads and staying in a hotel like this years ago. Taos is a great little city, and staying in the Hotel La Fonda we're right in the middle of the square, of the main square of town. So you can go everywhere from here. When you walk in, they have art collection from all around, from local artists, and some really amazing stuff. Obviously decorated for the holidays. This is a great painting of the downtown square. It's a huge painting. Kind of shows you all the different places right around there. They have nice touches like these churches that are set into the walls. I don't know the significance of all those. Obviously, those are probably local and trying to show the history of the area. The room is nice. You know, like a lot of these older hotels, they're smaller than like a Marriott or something like that. The water pressure was average in the shower. That's a big thing for me usually, is the water pressure, but we'll survive it. And you got a nice view. At least I had a nice view right out to the square. And so it could be busy out there. You know, people are on a weekend maybe partying a little bit, but I didn't notice it too bad. Just walking down from my room, they have a nice little sitting area. If you don't want to be in the room, if you need more space, you can come hang out here. And then kind of viewing down where we walked in from above. And obviously I was there at Christmas, and they had a lot of decorations. Like I said, you just walk right out to the square. This is a very historic area, this square right here. And that was just a great place to stay. Hotel El Rancho. This is a kind of famous hotel in Gallup, New Mexico. And this is where a lot of famous actors and actresses have stayed throughout the years, and also a family-owned hotel, and tells about the history in different places in the hotel, about the ownership. So very beautiful area when you walk in. I was staying in the Barbara Payton room because all of the rooms are named after people who stayed in these rooms. And kind of like the other ones, it's probably maybe a little bigger than some of the other ones, but great old posters and history about movies. Another nice shower curtain. I like it when the hotel name's on the shower curtain. Talks about Barbara Payton, who led an interesting life. I didn't know much about her. Read up on her while I was there. So you can see how old the hotel is, and by the hallways and all the different people that stayed in the room. I mean, it's a literal who's who of famous actors and actresses that came here. And then they do have, you know, other ways to decorate with paintings and pictures and all kinds of stuff. I mean, there's so much stuff. It's like a museum of Hollywood. And the reason this is like this is because they used to shoot movies not too far from here, and this was a logical place to stay for the cast and crew. And so they did a great job documenting all of this, and just walking up and down the hallways, looking at all the names, recognizing all the famous people that have stayed there is pretty entertaining. You can spend a couple hours for sure. And there's some pictures of movies they might have shot there. Fort Apache, I think that was one for sure that they were filming in that area. And then they have a restaurant. So, good restaurant. I ate a couple meals here, actually. And you got John Wayne kind of watching you over there. The menus are pretty comical because it's all movie themed and they're named after different people. So, you know, the cast would be the burgers and Ronald Reagan like jelly beans. Even though the sign is missing a couple letters, this was a great place to stay, especially if you're heading towards the Grand Canyon. Very good value. A lot of neat stuff outside of the hotel, and you can stay in these railroad cars. They are more expensive than the normal room. My room was very inexpensive, and but they have like this Grand Canyon train car, and I actually almost stayed in one of them. I kind of wanted to experience, but it was a lot more expensive than staying in one of these rooms, which was just cheap. I guess maybe this time of the year it was just cheap. I was amazed at how inexpensive it was because it was a nice room. It was like a lot of these other places, a great place to sleep. Now the shower and the bathroom area, those, if you're a big person, might be tough on you. But nice touches with some history there. A lot of the decorations, a saddle, and then there's somebody named John that had been here, I guess, so I felt this was definitely my room. Good pick. It's also an RV park, so you could park your RV, and this is inside of the office area, and they tell a little bit more about historical things. I think they had a train derailment there that they show pictures of. The Iron Horse Inn is right on the downtown strip of Cottonwood, Arizona, so convenient to walk to all the shops and some restaurants. And I like the decor with all the stones. There's a nice horse there. Courtyard, very, very well set up. Pretty cool place to just hang out. And we're on the second floor, so short little walk up to the room. Very modern, everything in the room. Very comfortable bed. and I got a good night's sleep here. And you can see it's not a huge room, but once again, being a single, not bad. TV, nice big television, great decor there with the horse, and so it gives you a good view of what the room looks like.
Best shower of the trip so far.
Great coffee shop too, and they have Starbucks coffee that you can make, and then there's a big map. I love a great big map on the wall, so it gives you ideas of where you can go while you're staying here. The Hotel McCoy definitely wins the award for artsiest place that I stayed at, and it came in the evening, and you can see nice little entranceway. The room was just another very solid room. A lot of old stuff like the old refrigerator, the Igloo refrigerator. They had some books that you could read, and so that's different. The bathroom area has shower curtain with the hotel on it. Like we said, we enjoy that. But yeah, this was a nice hotel in terms of staying there, but they had all kinds of extra stuff at the hotel. This is the kind of eating area. I actually worked in this area on editing some videos, and nice and quiet. They have a kind of yard games, and then they have a nice swimming pool. So if you have a family, it'd be a great place to stay. They have just lots of different places to hang out, and because of the artsy vibe, I think they welcome people to come here and do things like that. They have a bar right there on the right that's open pretty late, so that's nice to have a bar at your hotel. You can walk right home. The rest of the hotel is also decorated. There's signs like that. The live musician's kind of funny, and but then there's an arcade if you want to play some pinball or some arcade. Once again, very unique. The parking spots have different names or different things. Each parking spot has a name, which I've never seen that before. All the buildings, all along the walls, there's just so many. There's dozens and dozens of paintings like this and sayings, and you can spend a lot of time just hanging out, and you won't even have to leave the hotel to be entertained. The Inn at Castle Rock in historic Bisbee, Arizona was the most expensive place I stayed on this trip, but I can say it might have been worth it. It's so quirky in terms of what it looks like when you walk in. There's just stuff everywhere. Might even look a little bit cluttered, but it gives it great character because there's all kinds of things you can look at while you're getting to your room. Up this staircase, that was not the easiest thing if you have a heavy luggage or maybe you aren't real mobile. So that was just one thing to be aware of. But more art on the walls, like a couple of these other places, that was always gives off a great vibe. The room, it was a solid room. There's no TV here, but that's kind of part of the historic nature of the hotel. The bathroom was a little bit different, as you can see. Kind of looked like a bathroom / kitchen almost. Shower was very small, so it was certainly like a throwback. I mean, it's a historic place, so they're not going to make the rooms bigger than they used to be. It is what it is, but you can walk out, get a great view of downtown. You're right in the downtown area of Bisbee, and there's that, when you go to Bisbee, you want to stay somewhere like this so you can just walk around everywhere. So a very beautiful spot. I walked right down to places to eat, and then if you want to hang out, there's a parlor here that you can just get in chill mode. In the very small town of Duncan, which I did a video about in the 5 smallest towns of Arizona, this is the Simpson Hotel, and this was a great experience. This room was all decorated in Asian kind of motif. If you talk to the owners, they'll give you the story as to why. But big room, no TV, another hotel with no TV, but a big room, and you kind of walk through almost a closet over to the bathroom. And this is all for one room. This isn't like a community bathroom, and it's an old classic area. So you got a lot of space, and I had a lot of space for just one person. All kinds of art and pictures on the wall. These are the owners, and they were really great people. I had coffee and hung out with them, and they're very artistic people. And showing me some of the projects they are working on in the backyard. The backyard is an art project, but this is just walking over to get to the art gallery. Some amazing stuff that the husband here, the owner, has worked on. And I'm not an art aficionado, but I did my best to show how amazing some of these pieces are. And there are lots of them. And not open to the public, so obviously you need to stay here and maybe ask if you can see the art gallery. They were very gracious, and I really appreciated them showing me this. I know that they travel to different places to show off this artwork. I'm sure they sell a lot of these kind of things, but literally just a couple that bought the hotel and are enjoying renting out a hotel. It only has a handful of rooms there, and they got a lot of cats. Another great motel sign, the Desert Air Motel in Sanderson, Texas. This is the county that No Country for Old Men was set in. So the hotel in the movie wasn't this hotel, but it could have been anything like this hotel. Not great towels, if I remember, in the shower area. The heater worked, but it wasn't great. So maybe you'll need an extra blanket at night for this one, but generally just a real nice, locally owned hotel. I don't need much more than a good place to sleep, and it was fine for that. But they have some extras that are cool. They have a liquor store right here. So one of the hotels earlier had a bar. This is a liquor store that looks like you can get pretty much anything you want. It's a small town, so not a lot of places to go shopping. Then I kind of wandered around, and I didn't even know this was all back here because I checked in so late. I didn't really talk to anybody. But they have a whole, I guess you call it a backyard. And what better place to eat breakfast than on the breakfast bus? And you got coffee and all kinds of different breakfast items. That's a unique experience for sure. And then there's lots of area to play games or hang out. I'm sure this is a pretty active area, different times of the year. And they do have a swimming pool, which is certainly a nice place to hang out. And if you need somewhere to maybe take a nap, they're able to accommodate you too. Hope you enjoyed that rundown of the different hotels that I stayed in. I don't always stay in hotels like that, but I try to as often as I can if the hotels have a decent rating. With being everything on the internet now, you can have a pretty good idea of how nice the places are going to be, and there can be certainly ones you want to avoid. And every once in a while I end up staying at a Marriott or a Hilton or something like that, but the local hotels are usually less expensive, and you know that your dollar is going to support the local community or family that's living in that town. So that's the reason I try to stay in as many of those places as I can. Certainly they're smaller. I've mentioned that a couple times in the video. So if you need space, not always the best place, call ahead. Maybe if you have an animal, you want to call ahead to make sure, because every hotel has different policies about that. But really made my holiday travels more fun by staying in some of these unique places that I wouldn't have if I would have just stayed in a regular chain hotel. I've been having people ask me about the things behind me in the video. I do know how to play guitar a little bit, but not very much. But mostly people were wondering about my movie collection. And I just want to let you know that this is a very small part of my movie collection. There's the movies over there. Oh yes, there's more. Oh yes. There's like 1,000 movies. I know, it's crazy. But he thinks it's cool, and that's all that matters.